Okay, we are working from the course 2 textbook. We are doing lesson 2.2, adding rational numbers. So that means we're adding positive and negative fractions and decimals. Rational numbers, for all practical purposes, are fractions and decimals. And we are going to be adding that integer component, the positives and negatives. So we're taking what you learned in 5th grade, fractions and decimals, and we're applying what you learned in 6th grade, the positives and negatives, putting them together. Okay, so in the book, they like to give us problems written horizontally. -8/3 plus 5/6. I do not like to add or subtract fractions horizontally. It is easier to do it vertically. Now, when we're dealing with integers, positives and negatives, it doesn't really matter what goes on top and what goes underneath, as long as we keep the signs the same. So when I'm dealing with fractions and integers, I always try to make the largest digits on the top, because then if I have to subtract, it's easier. So when I look at this, I've got 8/3 and 5/6. This definitely is a larger number. So I'm going to put it on top and keep the sign. As long as I keep the sign, it doesn't matter what's on top and what's on bottom. Plus 5/6. So I lined them up vertically. And if I want to, I can take notes. I want to line them up vertically with the largest numbers on top, the largest digits on top. The second thing I want to do is find a common denominator. Find a common denominator. So I have 3 and 6. So I'm going to skip count. 3, 6, 9, 12, 6, 12, 18. The same number. I want the smallest, the least common denominator. The smallest, same number as 6. So 6 is going to be my common denominator. But now I need to turn a 3 into a 6. How do I turn a 3 into a 6? I'm going to multiply it by 2, exactly. So I'm multiplying this whole fraction by 2/2. So -8 times 2 is -16. 3 times 2 is 6. Now, do I have to do anything to 5/6? If my denominator is 6 and 6, do I have to do anything? No. Nope. So I keep my sign, bring it over, 5/6. Okay. I'm going to bring my common denominator down. It's common. Now, I need to look at my signs. I have a positive and a negative. Positive and a negative. So I'm going to add or subtract? I'm going to subtract. So 16 minus 5 is 11. And I'm going to keep the sign of the largest number, -11/6. Now, when you get into Algebra 1, the majority of the time they'll ask you to keep it like this. They want you to keep it as a fraction, even if it's an improper fraction, because it's easier to work with. Sometimes, in this case, for this unit, they'll ask you to reduce this. So we have -11/6. Negative. How many 6s can we pull out of 11? 1. And what's left over? If we take 1/6 out of 11, we have 5 left over. -1 and 5/6. So the first thing we want to do is line our fractions up vertically. We need to find a common denominator. Then we're going to pay attention to the signs. Same signs, add, different signs, subtract. And then we reduce. Okay, let's do another one. Okay, what happens if I have -3 plus 1 and 1/4? -3 plus 1 and 1/4. The first thing I want to do is line them up vertically. We want to line them up vertically, and I want to put my largest numbers on top. So -3 plus 1 and 1/4. I need to find a common denominator. -3 is -3. It doesn't even have a denominator. So my denominator here is 4. I want to pay attention to that because -3 is the same thing as -2 and 4/4. -3. This is 1, 2, 3 pies, right? And they're all negative because we owe for them. So -3, this is 3 pies. This is the same thing as 2 and 4/4, right? So I'm going to take this -3 and I'm going to make it a 2 and 4/4. Now my denominators are the same. Okay, I can bring that down. My signs are different, so I'm going to subtract. 4 minus 1 is 3. Whole number 2 minus 1 is 1. Keep the sign of the largest number. Okay, let's do one more. Okay, let's take a look. Let's do one more. -7/8 plus -1/4. I do not like to work my problems horizontally, so I'm going to write it vertically And because we're dealing with positives and negatives, it doesn't matter which goes on top and which goes on the bottom. I'm going to pick the one with the largest digits and put it on the top. So -7/8 plus -1/4. So the first thing I need to do is find the common denominator. I have 8 and 4. Common denominators is skip counting. 8, 16, 24, 32. 4, 8, 12. So I'm looking for a number that's the same in both. So my common denominator is going to be 8. Now, 8 to 8, I don't have to do anything. Keep the sign, bring it over. But how am I going to turn 4 into 8? I'm going to multiply it by 2 over 2. So -1 times 2 is -2. 4 times 2 is 8. My signs are the same. So I'm adding them. My common denominator comes down. My signs are the same, so I'm going to add them and keep the sign. Now, when you get into Algebra 1, leaving it as an improper fraction is okay. It's easier to work with this way. But for all practical purposes and this lesson, you are going to have to reduce this. So if this is negative, my answer is negative. How many 8s can we pull out of 9? 1. And what's left over? There we go. So we are adding fractions, positive and negative fractions. The book will give it to you horizontally. I like to line things up vertically and put the largest digits at the top. But we're not done because rational numbers also include decimals. Now, you guys have been working with decimals longer than you realize. When you work with decimals, think money. When you're working with decimals, think money. So we have -4 and 5/100 plus 7 and 62/100. So here again, the book is giving us this problem horizontally. And adding and subtracting decimals is hard to do horizontally. We need to do it vertically. So when I look at these two, I'm going to ignore the signs. This one definitely has the largest digits. This is the largest number. I'm going to put it on top. So I have +7 and 62/100. Now I have a negative. And I'm going to line up my decimal points and then line up my place values. My signs are different, so I'm going to subtract. Different signs, subtract. So, okay. Then keep the sign of the largest number. Okay, let's do another one. We have 0 and 65/100 plus -2 and 75/100. This is horizontal. I'm going to line them up vertical, and I'm ignoring the signs. I'm going to put the number that has the largest digits, the largest number on the top when I ignore the sign. So this is -2 75/100. Then I'm going to line up my decimal points. And since this doesn't have a sign in front of it, it is an implied positive. Line up my place values. Now my signs are different. So I'm going to subtract. The signs are different. Keep the sign of the largest number. And then I want to give you one more problem that you're going to see for the homework. One more that you're going to see for the assignment. We have 6 plus -4 3/4 plus -2 1/8. You are going to see this problem on your assignments. So since we don't have anything to solve inside the parentheses, we're done with the P. We don't have any exponents. We don't have any multiplication division. We do have addition subtraction. We're going to work it from left to right. So this is my first problem. I'm going to set these up vertically, and 6 is larger than 4, so it's going to go on top. 6 minus 4 3/4. Now, just like we did earlier, I can't subtract 3/4 from positive 6. Like, how do I subtract 3/4 from nothing? So 6, this is 6. It is the same thing as 5 4/4, right? So this is 5 4/4. My denominator comes down, I subtract. 4 minus 3 is 1. 5 minus 4 is 1. Keep the sign of my largest number. So all of this is equal to 1 1/4. Bring the rest of this down. This is now my next problem. So I'm going to ignore my signs. I have 1 1/4, 2 1/8. I'm going to put the -2 1/8 on top. Since I don't have a sign in front, it's an implied positive. So I wrote my problem vertically. I need to find a common denominator. What's a common denominator between 8 and 4? 8. So my common denominator is 8. I don't have to do anything to this problem. But here, I'm going to have to multiply it by 2 over 2. So I have 1. 1 times 2 is 2. 4 times 2 is 8. My signs are different. I have a positive and a negative. So I'm going to subtract. But here again, I cannot take 2 away from 1, can I? No. So 2 1/8, it is, I have 2 1/8. This is the same thing as 1 9/8, isn't it? 1 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1 and 9/8. So this is the same thing as 1 and 9/8. Now I can subtract. My common denominator comes down. 9 minus 2 is 7. 1 minus 1 is 0. Keep the sign of the largest number. So this is negative 7/8. You will see this problem on your assignment. Okay, does anybody have any questions?